Hello, today we're going to be looking at Ambrose Bierce and his story Chickamauga. And if you know Ambrose Bierce, we're not going to be talking about a happily ever after. We're going to be talking about You're Traumatized Ever After. And in the story, Ambrose Bierce uses a small, deaf, and I think mute as well, child to basically roast our environment that we're in now, our civilization where we glorify war. And it starts out with the kid with the wooden sword, and that's his like he thinks that he's Alexander the Great, and he has this imaginary army, and that's just like the basis. But let's start from the beginning. We'll talk about the wooden sword. Bierce calls it a fragile toy. It's cute, right? It's what kids do. But Bierce is being a bit of a hater here in a literary way. The sword represents the harmless glorification of war. In the boy's head, he sees a successor, to a race of builders. He's leading imaginary men. He's the hero of his own movie. This is exactly how society treats military service, sometimes like a video game, like this big glorification. The idea is, I'm leading men, oorah, the big, maturity, testosterone of it all, and not the fact that you could be leading men to their death. And there are people at home, they could have been waiting for them, and now their family can blame you. And it's just completely avoid that, and that just kind of shows the wooden sword. It's not a true steel sword. And people see a uniform and they think a hero, but they don't want to think about the steel part of the sword. If you think about it, if you ever ask a veteran, hey, how many people did you kill? He's probably not going to love that you asked that question, because that's not a normal thing to ask. They're probably gonna shove off the question some way or another, and to kids it's just like why won't you answer the question? But the wooden sword is just not how reality truly is. That's only to civilians. The boy is deaf and mute. We later find in the story, because a big spoiler. His family and everybody's dead when he comes back, and he finds a bunch of soldiers, and he tries playing with them, but they're dying. And you figure out that he's deaf and mute towards the end. Is this a disability, or is this a symbolic essay of his, or story of his, where he's using his deaf and muteness as like a savage critique of what we think of how we romanticize war? And this kid is wandering through the aftermath of one of the bloodiest battles in American history. There are men crawling on the ground with their jaws missing, and this kid is thinking that they're trying to play like clowns, and he tries to ride them like him and his brother do when they play with him, and he tries to get on his back. The soldier obviously does not like that and throws him off, and he sees that he is missing his whole side of his face, so he looks like a bird. The kid, he reads the room, because he still has eyes. He is not deaf, mute, and blind. He's deaf and mute, but he screams. Bierce is pretty much saying that the society that we live in is willingly deaf. We replace the screams of the dying with cheers of a football game. We want the glory of the gridiron. And for example, football. We all know that football causes brain injuries. It's pretty, but as a football player, and as somebody that's probably played football, you just know there's nothing else that quite replaces it. And that is just our version of just how much we yearn for this war, this testosterone, oorah, in society. But also, even in that reality, a lot of these people, it's pretty much been guaranteed by science that you're going to walk away with brain injuries. You're going to have issues. We want the glory of things without the trauma. And the boy's delusion is only possible because he can't hear reality. He is deaf and mute. If you can't hear the pain, it's just a parade. It's like a big, blending, it's white noise. We get to, towards the end, and it's a big twist. The boy follows the clowns back to his house, only to find his home on fire, and his mother not making cookies. Suddenly, the reality, checks in. The wooden sword is useless, completely useless. The singular, painted animals are actually, dying men. This is the erosion of empathy. the death of his naivety, and where Ambrose Bierce would say, as there is writings about him and what he talked about, where he believes you lose that childhood innocence in war. And this is where this kid lost his innocence in war. And Bierce's point is that the brutality of war is invisible to most people until it's right in front of you. Until you see your mom can no longer bake cookies, or your mom can no longer do anything. It's all fun and games, and it's all support the troops until the fire reaches your own doorstep. When the boy finally finds his voice, it's not a speech about glory. It's a cry, because when romanticism dies, there are no words left, just the mess. So what did we learn today? Ambrose Bierce just wants us to put down the wooden sword. He's telling us that treating war as entertainment, it's not just naive. It's dangerous. It makes us deaf to the people that are actually fighting in it. And, it just really leads to... It makes us out of touch with reality, to put it plainly and simply. Next time you see a movie glorifying a massacre, just remember the kid in the woods, and remember that is you. We are glorifying massacres. Now, I personally would struggle not to watch these movies. It is so embedded in society of war and the glorification of it, and just the testosterone of it all. I'm sure you could ask a woman, and they could probably go without it. But as a man, it's just cooked into our brains at this point that we love war. We love these movies. Total casualties of the war that Ambrose Bierce is referring to was 34,624 casualties. 16,170 were the Union, and 18,454 were Confederate. It was the second costliest battle of the Civil War, surpassed only by Gettysburg. I'm going to go sit in my room alone and just think on Ambrose Bierce's Chickamauga by myself now.